30 days after stealing $17.3 million, this crew was already finished. Not because the FBI was brilliant, because one of them bought a $635,000 mansion in cash and thought nobody would notice, while the man who actually took the money was sitting broke in Mexico. This is how one of the biggest cash robberies in American history collapsed under greed, panic, and betrayal. Charlotte, North Carolina, 1997. David Scott Gant is not a mastermind. He's not a career criminal. He's an armored car employee at Loomis Fargo, the guy with after-hours vault access, the kind of access that exists because a business like this runs on routine, repetition, and trust. He served in the U.S. Army. By the time he's at this job, he's the kind of employee people stop noticing. Shows up, does the work, knows the process, has the keys, goes home. Repeat. Every single day, he moves other people's money, brick after brick of bundled cash, stacks that look like movie props, except they're real. And every single day, he walks out with a regular paycheck. That kind of job messes with your head. You spend all day around money that could change your life, while your own life stays exactly the same. That's where people get vulnerable. Not when they're evil, when they're tired, when they're restless. When somebody puts a shortcut in front of them and makes it sound simple. That somebody was Kelly Campbell. She used to work at Loomis Fargo too, but got fired before any of this goes down. She reconnects with Gant like it's nothing, like old coworkers catching up. Except she's already talking to someone else. His name is Michael Chambers, goes by Steve. And Chambers was the kind of guy who could sell a bad idea like it was a gift. The pitch is simple on purpose. One night, one truck, everybody's set. Gant has access. He gets to the money after hours, drives it out to a drop point, disappears. And the crew handles everything from there, hiding the cash, getting him his cut, making sure he's taken care of. Here's what Gant doesn't ask. Taken care of by who, exactly? Taken care of how? He doesn't ask. He agrees. October 4th, 1997. After hours. Gant is alone in the Loomis Fargo vault, and he's doing something that looks exactly like his job. Same routine, same hands, same vault. The only difference is what happens to the money next. He loads bundled cash into an armored van, brick after brick after brick. There's no alarm going off, no dramatic moment, just a man doing something familiar in a place that trusted him completely and walking out. He drives the money to the pre-arranged drop, $17.3 million in U.S. currency. At that point, the second largest cash robbery in American history. And then he does his part of the plan. He goes to Mexico, and he waits. Now here's the part nobody tells you up front. Gant doesn't go to Mexico and become rich. He goes there and waits. That's his life now. Waiting in a foreign country for money that is supposed to come from people who already convinced him to risk everything. He can't go home. He can't make noise. He can't walk into a bank and explain why he suddenly has stacks of cash. So he sits there trying to believe the plan is still working. At first, maybe he tells himself it just takes time. Maybe they're being careful. Maybe they're moving the money slowly, but days pass. Then more days. And the money doesn't show up the way it should. The life he imagined never arrives. Instead of freedom, Mexico starts to feel like a cage without bars. He's alive, but he's stuck. He did the risky part, and now he's dependent on people back home who are already proving they cannot handle money or pressure. Because back in North Carolina, the crew is not laying low. They are celebrating. Cash purchases start showing up immediately. Vehicles, jewelry, furniture, big-ticket items in neighborhoods where people notice everything, and then comes the move that sealed all of their fates in one transaction. Chambers and his wife Michelle go from living in a trailer to buying a $635,000 house in Kramer Mountain, a gated golf community in Gaston County, North Carolina, in cash. Not financed, not structured, cash. Behind a gate that was supposed to keep people out, not point them directly at you. Think about that for a second. You just pulled off one of the biggest cash robberies in American history. Your first move is a mansion and a shopping spree. How long did they think that was going to take to notice? The answer, not long at all. Because here's what happens when you try to spend $17 million in cash with no plan and no patience. Banks notice. Not because investigators tipped them off. Because deposits coming in just under $10,000 over and over through different people look exactly like what they are. The pattern is one of the most recognizable things in financial crime. Reports start stacking up around the same circle of names. Meanwhile, Loomis realizes the vault has been emptied. October 5th, 1997. The FBI Charlotte field office is in it within hours. And this isn't a mystery. There's surveillance footage inside the vault. It shows exactly who was there and exactly what happened. The missing employee isn't hard to connect to the footage. Investigators start pulling. Phone records, bank reports, transfer trails crossing the border into Mexico, and every contact leaves a trace. This wasn't turning into the story of a genius crew who vanished. It was turning into the story of greedy people who got loud too fast. But here's the part that makes this something more than a robbery. At some point, Chambers makes a decision. Not about the money, about Gaunt. Gaunt is in Mexico. He's broke. He hasn't received his cut. He's not talking to investigators. He's not threatening anyone. He's just sitting there, waiting, trusting, like the people who convinced him to do this are actually going to take care of him. At first, he's the guy who made it possible. Then he's the guy expecting a big cut. Then he's the guy who knows too much. And from there, it's one short step to something worse. Chambers decides the cleanest way to stop splitting the money is to eliminate the one person who can claim it. Not because Gaunt is a liability, not because he knows too much, just because he is expensive. He puts out a murder-for-hire contract on the guy who made the entire thing possible. The plot fails, no one dies. But stop and sit with that for a second. The man who took every physical risk, who walked into that vault, whose face is on that surveillance tape, is now a target. While he's in Mexico, waiting for money. That was never coming. That's not a robbery story. That's a betrayal story. By early 1998, the pressure is impossible to hold back. Vault surveillance footage. A missing employee who fled the country. Spending habits that read like a financial crime tutorial. Phone records connecting everyone. Search warrants start hitting properties. Homes, storage units, safe deposit boxes. Because when you can't spend cash without getting caught, you hide it. And hiding places can be searched. In early March 1998, Mexican authorities working with the FBI arrest David Scott Gaunt near the Cancun and Playa del Carmen area. He's not living like a king, he's broke, stuck. The guy who did the hard part took the real risk and got left in another country, while everyone else tried to turn into a millionaire overnight. Days after his arrest, the sweep hits North Carolina. Chambers, Michelle, Kelly, multiple associates. More than 20 defendants by the time laundering and structuring charges pull in the full circle. And outside the Kramer Mountain mansion, cameras rolling, agents carrying out boxes of money, Michelle Chambers looks directly into those cameras and flips them off. That's the whole story in one image. A mansion bought with stolen cash, federal agents at the door, and a middle finger for the record. The sentences come down in federal court in the Western District of North Carolina. Gant, the man who physically took the money, gets 7.5 years. Chambers, The man who had the idea and then put out a murder contract gets 11. Michelle gets around 7 years. Kelly Campbell gets around 6. Authorities recover roughly 95% of the $17.3 million pulled from homes, vehicles, storage sites, and safe deposit boxes. 95% from a $17 million cash robbery. Not because it was impossible to hide, because they made no real effort to try. He stole $17 million. His partner stole the plan, the money, and eventually tried to take his life. And the man who trusted them enough to risk everything learned from a motel room in Mexico that sometimes the most dangerous part of a crime isn't the theft, it's the people waiting to split the money. They pulled off one of the biggest cash robberies in American history. What they couldn't pull off was acting normal for 30 days. 30 days. That's all it would have taken. They didn't make it close. Enjoyed this story? Leave a like, subscribe, and stay tuned for the next one. Now you know.